Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So, as some of you know, I'm feeling quite under the weather at the moment, so I'm going to give myself a rest, but I still wanted to put out a video for you all. So, here is a compilation of some of the dramas that I've talked about before on my channel to do with Drag Race Season 15. I hope you enjoy! They then started discussing filming Drag Race post-COVID, and Poppy said that she actually caught COVID 2 weeks before filming, and even though she didn't have it anymore, the test was still showing positive. So apparently, Poppy read online that if you put lots of chapstick up inside your nose, it makes the test show as negative, which is what she did, and she ended up being allowed on the show. And Irene made a joke that Poppy infected everyone on set. However, after the Roscoe's episode aired, Poppy must have received some critical comments about this online, and she tweeted saying, quote, "I've gotten a few comments about what I said at Roscoe's about my COVID test. Can't believe I have to clarify what I thought was a funny story, but I was not positive with COVID. We were required to take PCR tests to go on the show, but they can show COVID in your system for months." Poppy then went on to explain in a series of other tweets that she had done rapid tests, but they were all negative, but the PCR tests kept coming back positive. But she consulted with the show and many doctors, and they agreed that she didn't actually have COVID, so she was allowed to go film. And she also said that she would never endanger the health of the other contestants. However, she has since deleted several of the tweets. And Poppy also gave her opinion on this and said that because on season 14 there were so many non-eliminations and that everything was so positive, the judges on this season wanted to be more, quote, cutthroat. Poppy also said that on season 14, the judges were apparently telling everyone that they're special, and then Poppy said, quote, "Alright, calm down, you're Orion's story." Everyone laughed, but Poppy said that it was just a joke. And the hosts joked that Orion was in the audience, and then Irene said that Orion was, quote, not booked, and implied as though Orion doesn't get work. And it appears that Orion did not take very kindly to this. After the Roscoe's episode aired, Orion's story tweeted saying, quote, "Not trying to sit there and say I'm not booked. Girl, sit down with your ice water, you sound dumb as hell." And host Batty Davis, who said to Irene during the viewing party that she was friends with Orion, responded to Orion's tweet and said, quote, "Yup, that's what she said, I told her not to go there." And Orion responded saying, quote, "Like girl, take your one episode paycheck and make sure not to spend it all in one place." And someone else commented, referring to Irene, saying, quote, "I love her, let's tear down other queens because I don't have a shtick. And Orion replied saying, quote, "That's all she does." Irene eventually commented on Orion's tweet and said, quote, "I promise I meant it as a joke, I'm sure you're very busy." And Orion replied saying, quote, "Poppy's joke was funny, yours was just a malicious comment. You've been very negative online towards a lot of queens and it's not the tea." Orion also said that she heard that Irene had been making jokes about her in the dressing room at Roscoe's before the viewing party started. And Irene said that she didn't have any negative feelings toward Orion and it was just a joke, and she said Orion is entitled to how she feels. Another audience member then asked when Irene and Poppy found out that the episodes were being reduced from 1 hour to 40 minutes. Irene said that they only got told a week before, and Irene was really annoyed because she thought she would have 2 episodes, but then found out that they were combining episode 1 and 2. And Irene said she called her producer and was really annoyed, and then said, quote, "They don't tell us bleep." And finally, Irene said that when MTV made the decision to reduce the episodes from 1 hour to 40 minutes, the show had already been filmed, and MTV hadn't really consulted with production about it. So the Drag Race editors then had to struggle to try and cut the footage down into the 40-minute slot, which meant that a lot of storylines got cut out of the season. Natasha then asked Lucy if there were any jokes that she made as Joan Rivers during the Snatch Game that were not shown. And Lucy said there was one joke she wished had stayed in, where she said that she was on a bad flight on the way there, and Lucy said, quote, "There was a child behind me kicking and screaming the whole time. All I kept thinking was, where is Casey Anthony when you need her?" And there was a big laugh and a few gasps from everyone at Roscoe's. Just to explain, Casey Anthony is an American woman who was accused of murdering her 2-year-old daughter Kaylee in 2008, and she lied many times during the trial but was eventually found not guilty, which caused public outroar at the time, and it was dubbed the social media trial of the century. Trinity the Tuck versus Luxe Noir London.
As you probably know, Lux Noir London is currently a contestant on season 15 of RuPaul's Drag Race, and the last episode of season 15 was the Snatch Game. Lux said that she was going to be playing Amanda Lepore, who is an American singer, model, and performance artist. And you may remember that Trinity the Tuck played Amanda Lepore for Snatch Game on season 9. On the latest episode of season 15, while the queens were getting ready for Snatch Game, someone asked Lux if it made her nervous that Trinity the Tuck had already done Amanda Lepore on Snatch Game. And Lux jokingly said, quote, "No, because she didn't do that good of a job." Later on Twitter, a few users tweeted in support of Trinity and said that she did a better job than Lux and implied as though Lux was being arrogant. And Trinity liked these posts. And it appears as though Lux found out that Trinity had liked these posts, and Lux then tweeted saying, "Liking and laughing at tweets about how my Snatch Game was horrible and how I'm arrogant and delusional won't make yours any more memorable ... or funnier because it wasn't." And Bob the drag queen commented saying, "We want names, I want their @ and people in the comments said that Lux was referring to Trinity. Trinity then seemingly responded to this and tweeted saying, 11 wins, ... still waiting for at least one, done with this conversation. And this is presumably referring to the fact that Trinity has won 11 challenges across all the seasons she's competed in on Drag Race, and Lux has so far not won a challenge. Trinity later followed this up by saying, "Mind you, I didn't throw the first punch, but I'm no punk. You'll already know, you talk bleep, you get a reply." And Trinity then received some criticism for her tweet in the comments, and Trinity replied to one Twitter user saying, "Oh ma'am, she's an adult starting bleep, and I don't give an F. If you know better, you talk bleep for absolutely no reason, you're going to get a response. And you, my dear, need to grow up if you can't understand that." And just as some background information, in general, Lux has been getting a lot of criticism online saying that she has been overly confident or arrogant, and has also received racist and hateful comments, which is of course disgusting and unacceptable. And this is probably why Lux later tweeted saying, "I'm delusional for being confident in myself and unafraid to say that I'm good at what I do, even though I'm actually doing good in the competition. How is that delusional, lol? It just sounds like I'm being realistic." And Lux also said, "I'm probably just gonna not use Twitter anymore, lol." And Lux explains that she needs a break from being told how she is a horrible person and said, "We all have days where our barrier of self-confidence is made of straw and not bricks." And later on, Trinity tweeted saying that half her tweets are just jokes and acknowledged that Lux did a good job on Snatch Game. And Trinity also said you shouldn't be sending hate to any of the queens, especially not racially motivated insults. And neither Lux nor Trinity have tweeted about the situation since then. Mistress Isabel Brooks suspended on Instagram. There was some drama earlier this week when Mistress Isabel Brooks' Instagram account appeared to have been suspended and no one knew why. Mistress took to Twitter to inform people as to what was going on and said that people had been reporting her Instagram account for abuse on the back of what happened in the latest episode of Untucked with Marsha. Just to explain in case you haven't seen it, in Untucked for the Snatch Game episode, Marsha was saying that she thought that she was second in the ranking for that episode after Lucy LaDuca, who ultimately won the episode. And Marsha explained that the judges liked her Snatch Game as Tim Gunn, but they critiqued her runway outfit for being too simple. And Mistress seemingly didn't take kindly to this because Mistress was also high in the ranking that week and probably felt that she would have been second in the placement and therefore felt like Marsha was discrediting her slightly. Mistress then said to Marsha that she didn't think Marsha would have been second in the ranking and said, quote, "Your look is kind of cheap and I don't think during Snatch Game that you were that funny." Mistress then went on to say, "I'm not saying it's ugly or busted, it's just kind of on the cheaper side." Marsha didn't seem to agree with this, and Mistress said that was just her opinion, and a few people agreed with Mistress that Marsha could have amped up her makeup, but they said that Marsha still looked good. Mistress also apologised to Marsha and said she wasn't trying to be mean, she was just giving her opinion, and that seemed to be the end of the discussion in Untucked. Well, it appears that after the Untucked episode aired, many people online then reported Mistress's Instagram account for abuse, and this led to Mistress's Instagram being suspended. Mistress tweeted saying that the fanbase had previously ruined her Drag Race debut because they kept comparing her to Drag Race alum Eureka. And Mistress also said, and now the fanbase has reported my Instagram and has cost me so much engagement and followers, which I'm also one of the least followed from the cast because I checked someone who tried to discredit me. Mistress then wrote a thread of tweets where she said that the real reason people were being hateful towards her is because she's fat and a person of colour. And she ended by saying that she is unstoppable and she will keep going on and conquer. Marsha then posted on her Instagram stories saying that Mistress is an icon and said that they had already sorted their drama. And Marsha also said how much of a hindrance it is when you report people's social media accounts because it can affect people's engagement. And Marsha ended by calling on Instagram to restore Mistress's account and said that people were fraudulently reporting her. And Marsha added on Twitter that also Mistress was right, she was absolutely top 2. And Mistress's account was reinstated later that day. However, as of a few hours ago, Mistress tweeted again saying that her account had been resuspended, and at time of recording, her Instagram account is still suspended. Queens react to 40-minute episodes. As many of you will have realised, Drag Race announced that for season 15, the episodes would be cut from 1 hour to 40 minutes. And this decision caused a lot of backlash online, and many people blamed the fact that MTV had cut Drag Race episodes to make room in the schedule for the new show, The Real Friends of WeHo, which features Drag Race stars Todrick Hall and Brad Koreski. There's a lot of drama about Todrick Hall and the Real Friends of WeHo, and it's too much to get into now, so I'm going to make a separate video about it, so make sure you watch out for that, and I'll put a link in the description once the video comes out. Anyway, a lot of people were unhappy with the fact that Drag Race episodes were being cut down to 40 minutes, including the contestants themselves, and many of them have voiced their frustrations online. For example, Selena S. Titties said on Twitter, "We worked too hard and invested too much money for a 45-minute edit." And Selena also made the point that the contestants spend so much money on the runway outfits and they only get shown for 13 seconds, which is really upsetting. But Drag Race Canada contestant Eve 6000 replied to Selena and said 40 minutes on MTV is better than 60 on VH1. And Eve's reasoning is that MTV has a higher viewership than VH1. But Drag Race alum Detox also commented on Selena's tweet about the 40-minute episodes and said, "I hate it." Aura Mayari tweeted and implied as though a lot of content was cut from the last episode, presumably because the episodes are now 20 minutes shorter than previously. And there was even a petition started on change.org to bring back the 90-minute episodes of Drag Race and not air The Real Friends of WeHo, and so far the petition has over 30,000 signatures. And Drag Race alum Kim Chi posted about this by tweeting a photo of the cast of The Real Friends of WeHo with the caption, "The villains of season 15 of RuPaul's Drag Race has been revealed." However, some people seem to prefer the 40-minute episodes, such as former contestant and now judge of Canada's Drag Race, Brooklyn Heights. Brooklyn tweeted saying, "Am I the only one who didn't mind how short that episode was?" And Juicebox from Canada's Drag Race Season 1 replied and said, "They got rid of the fluff, straight to the point, perfect." And the winner of Drag Race Down Under Season 2, Spanky Jackson, agreed and said, "So agree, streamlined it." So it appears as though the reception to the 40-minute episodes of Drag Race has been mixed, and we'll need to see if MTV decides to change this decision in the future. Spice versus Marsha. There appeared to be a little bit of a beef between Spice, who is one half of the twins Sugar and Spice, and fellow season 15 contestant Marsha. It appears to have stemmed from a comment that Marsha made during Sugar and Spice's lip sync in the latest episode. The two of them did a choreographed lip sync routine, and during the lip sync they cut to a confessional of Marsha saying, quote, "more canned bits," which implied as though Sugar and Spice rely on doing pre-rehearsed jokes and tricks, which is something they had been accused of previously. Anyway, it appears as though Spice then called Marsha out on Twitter and said, "Miss Marsha has to stop with the canned bits, it's called charisma boo, you should get some." And Marsha responded to Spice and said, "I'm sorry girlie, I didn't know it was something that was upsetting you. You both have charisma for days." And they don't seem to have tweeted about the situation since then, so I think this was just a little bit of beef that's been resolved. Lucy LaDuca calls out Rock'em Sakura. Season 15 contestant Lucy LaDuca appeared to call out fellow Drag Race alums in a tweet where she said, "Y'all, these Drag Race alums are being rough on the girls. Have an opinion, but calling me weird looking out of drag and saying you wouldn't want to visit Connecticut because I live there, I mean damn, you've been through the process, lighten up." And it wasn't clear what Lucy was referring to specifically, but then Season 12 contestant Rock'em Sakura replied to Lucy's tweet and said, "Sorry if we've been rough on you, love. We'll make sure to send more kindness your way. We think you're an amazing queen and we're super impressed with you." And it appears as though Lucy's tweet was most likely referring to something Rock said in a video on her YouTube channel. In Rock's Drag Race review video for episode 3 of season 15, which was the acting challenge, Rock at one point made a comment about Lucy and said that out of drag, quote, "she looks weird in general." And Rock then went on to say that Lucy, quote, "looks like a Keebler elf," which is a cartoon mascot of the American snack manufacturer Keebler. Rock then went on to say that Lucy looks mad all the time and that, quote, "she paints mad," implying as though her makeup makes her look mad. Rock also made a comment about drag in Connecticut, which is where Lucy is from, and Rock said that Connecticut drag is, quote, "very elusive to me," and asked her viewers what Connecticut drag is. And the co-host said that they should go to Connecticut, and Rock said, "What's in Connecticut?" And the co-host replied, "Lucy," and Rock replied and said, "No, I'm not going." And these comments appear to be what upset Lucy. However, Lucy then commented on Rock's apology tweet and said, "Miss Rock'em Sakura reached out and we chatted privately. It's all good and we're working on our sex tape soon." And it appears as though the two of them have sorted their issues and the situation was resolved. Amethyst then said she wanted some constructive criticism from the judges so that she could work on things, but then she said, quote, "which I never got from Ross Matthews." And Sugar then said about Ross, quote, "still waiting for a funny joke." Amethyst then explained that Michelle Visage at least gives constructive feedback and gives you things to work on, but she said that Ross Matthews, quote, "just sat there and insulted my look the entire time." Amethyst then did an impression of Ross Matthews and said that he said, quote, "You know when you're 8 years old and you get out of the shower and you wrap a towel around you like you're wearing a dress? That's what this reminded me of and it didn't work." And everyone laughed at Amethyst's impression of Ross, and Amethyst then said about Ross's critique, quote, "what the F am I supposed to do with that?" Sugar then said that she was done with Carson Kressley and explained that Carson said something to Sugar during the runway for the Snatch Game episode that was cut out. Apparently, Carson said that for Snatch Game you need to pick icons and said that Trisha Paytas is not an icon. Sugar then mentioned the YouTube video that she had done with Trisha Paytas and said that they cut out a part of the video where they were talking about Carson and Trisha said, quote, "what does he even do? He's from Queer Eye from 2001, girl bye." And this got a big laugh from the audience. Spice then mentioned Marsha and said that there had been some unaired drama between them. Spice explained that there had been a whole storyline in the previous episodes that Marsha needed to use more makeup because the judges had critiqued her for not wearing enough. So apparently in the workroom during the Snatch Game episode, Sugar and Spice said to Marsha that they would, quote, "sugar and spicify you" and give Marsha some of their eyelashes, and they helped her out with her makeup. But then when it came time to the main stage critiques, apparently Michelle asked Marsha who helped her with her makeup, and Marsha immediately said Luxe Noir London, and that was it. And Sugar and Spice said they looked at each other because they were confused why Marsha didn't acknowledge them. And Sugar and Spice were apparently whispering to each other saying that they should say something to the judges about it. And Spice said that she normally didn't argue back with the girls if something happened, but this was, quote, "the one time I did stick up for myself." So apparently when it came time for Spice's judges' critiques, she looked over at Marsha and said, quote, "and to Miss Forgetful Freddy down there, whose lashes are you wearing again?" And then Marsha replied and said, quote, "oh yeah, Sugar and Spice's." And apparently Michelle then said to Marsha that she should take makeup tips from Sugar and Spice. And Spice then said to Marsha on stage that she should give credit where credit is due, and Spice said that it was the one time I got a little spicy. And Spice added that it was so petty and stupid, but she felt like because Sugar and Spice were in the bottom that week, Marsha just thought she wouldn't acknowledge their help and, quote, she was trying to kick us while we were down. Caramel brought up the fact that the first group of girls in episode 1 had Ariana Grande walk into the workroom, whereas the second group had Vivacious, and Caramel asked if they were annoyed about that. Sugar said that she found Vivacious, quote, fascinating because I could tell that she was in such a bad mood. And Vivacious apparently wasn't looking at any of the girls and just looked straight at the camera the whole time. And Amethyst agreed and said, quote, she was giving I'm paid to be here. And Sugar said that Vivacious has been really sweet online and they really do like her, but she was clearly just there to collect her check, but they loved how unbothered she was during filming. Naysha then asked Aura and Robin who they got on best with from the cast and also who they got on with the worst. Aura said that she and Robin got really close after the show and they are now really close friends. And then Aura said that although the whole cast does get on well, there are a few people that she doesn't talk to outside of the group chat, and Aura said that for her it was Mistress Isabel Brooks and Lux Noir London. Aura explained that there isn't any drama, it's just that she didn't connect with Mistress and Lux, and Aura went on to say that while taping the show, she felt very intimidated by Mistress because Mistress likes to provoke people for drama, so Aura said she just decided to keep away from Mistress. Another audience member then asked what their favourite moment from the season that wasn't caught on camera was, and Aura and Robin started laughing because they were thinking of the same thing. Aura explained that in the Untucked for episode 3, where the runway category was Metallica, during Untucked, Aura said that she, Robin and Marsha drank lots of the cocktails and they're really strong, so they all got totally drunk. And Robin added that during the lip sync, Robin and Marsha were stood at the back of the main stage and they were hanging on to Robin's spear for dear life because they thought they were going to pass out and fall over because they were both so wasted. And Aura said that the guest judge for that week, which was Maren Morris, came into Untucked and gave a shout out to Aura because they're both from Nashville. And Aura said that she barely said anything back to Maren because she was so drunk and she didn't know what to say. Naysha then asked Mistress if there was anyone in the season 15 cast that she didn't get on with. And Mistress said that she was a bit taken aback by what Aura had said about her last week at Roscoe's. Just to explain, last week at Roscoe's, Aura Mayari was one of the guests and said that she didn't vibe with Mistress and stayed away from Mistress because she felt like Mistress was always trying to start drama. Anyway, back to Mistress, and she said that she gets on with all the cast and she and Aura don't have any issues, so she was confused why Aura had said that. And Mistress also said that she's sure that Aura didn't have any malicious intent behind what she said and her feelings are valid. The Mistress said that she wasn't a fan of the way that Aura said it and was annoyed by what Aura had said because on that particular episode, which was last week's episode, they were talking about the word bully and what that means. And Mistress said that Aura's comments at Roscoe's just incited people to act even more crazy towards Mistress and also Lux, who are the two people that Aura had mentioned. And Mistress said that she thought Aura would have been, quote, more mindful of your words, and that's why Mistress responded to the situation on social media. But Mistress added that she doesn't have a beef with Aura, she was just surprised that Aura had said that because she and Aura do talk. Mistress then went on to say that some of the queens, such as Aura, but not exclusively, post on social media every week explaining what really happened during the Drag Race episodes and complain that so much was cut out, which further ignites the fan base. Whereas Mistress said that she just stays quiet and thinks that the fans should just watch the show. And Mistress said that at the end of the day, it's a TV show, and some of the queens who complain about not getting screen time were, quote, boring as F in person, which is probably why they didn't get much screen time. Mistress then went on to say that one of the reasons why she was annoyed at what Aura had said about Mistress instigating drama was because Mistress wanted to make sure that, quote, our season is not boring. And Mistress made the point that off camera, the queens are not always friends and said, quote, let's be realistic and show an accurate representation on camera of what it's really like. Mistress also said, quote, I'm not a sweetheart, I'm a B, whatever the girls say, believe it. And Mistress said that when she was on the show, she knew that because of the way that she was acting, she was going to potentially get a negative reception from the fans. But Mistress said that she didn't want the season to be boring, so she did it for, quote, the betterment of the season. And Mistress finished by saying that she respects everyone in her cast, even the queens that she had issues with, and said that it was, quote, disheartening to hear the comments that some of the queens had made about her. They then moved on to this week's challenge, which was the lip sync Lollapalooza, and when they were picking people's names for the lip sync using the bingo ball machine, Vanessa wondered whether that was fixed by production, and she made a joke about Naomi and the conspiracy theory. Just to explain, Naomi Smalls was a guest at Roscoe's a while ago, and she revealed that during the lip sync Lollapalooza on All Stars 4, when the pit crew came out with the boxes to choose the lip sync songs, Naomi saw people from production putting the same song name in each box to make sure that production could control which contestants got which song. I did talk about this in a previous video, so make sure you check out that for the full story. I'll put a link in the description. Anyway, Vanessa made that comment and Naomi laughed, and Vanessa said that Naomi was the reason that they didn't use the boxes anymore. And Naisha said that the balls in the bingo thing could be controlled by production, but the queens getting to pick who they wanted to lip sync against is more difficult to control. And Naisha asked Jax if they were told by production who to pick, and Jax said no. Naisha then asked Jax who on season 15 has been portrayed in the least accurate way so far. And Jax said that Lucy LaDuca has been portrayed as being very intense and competitive, and Jax said that Lucy is, quote, coming across harsher than she really is. But Jax said that Lucy isn't really like that, and she's actually a really lovely, helpful person. They then got to the part of the episode where Malaysia got eliminated and everyone clapped for Malaysia. And Naisha asked Malaysia if there was anything she wished she had said to the judges during the critiques. Malaysia said no and explained that she knew, quote, that it was my day, implying that she knew that she was going home that episode. And Malaysia said that at the beginning of the episode, normally the queen who is going home that week usually has a moment in the workroom where they talk about something traumatic. But Malaysia said that she was just smiling the whole episode and didn't want to be defeated. But apparently the producers came over to Malaysia in the workroom and pulled her aside and said, quote, whatever you're feeling today, just go in there and feel it. And Malaysia said that after that, she turned to all the other girls and said, quote, today's the day, implying as though she knew that today was the day she was going to be eliminated, and production had basically confirmed that because they were trying to get her to say something traumatic in the workroom. Malaysia talked about the moment in Untucked where both she and Mistress thought that they were going to be in the bottom, and Malaysia joked and said, quote, gosh, I might get in trouble, but I don't give an F. And Malaysia explained that she and Mistress had been talking in Untucked, and Mistress said that because she was in a gown, she wouldn't be able to do much in the lip sync. And apparently Mistress, quote, had a fit that was edited out, and apparently Mistress said that she was just going to stand there in one spot, and then said to Malaysia that she would have to dance circles around her. And Malaysia said that perhaps the producers had heard what Mistress had said, and so instead they put Selena in the bottom because they didn't want Mistress to go home because they like her, implying as though that's why Selena was in the bottom too instead of Mistress, because the producers didn't want to risk Mistress going home. They then moved on to the mini challenge for this week, which was a voguing dance challenge, and host Batty Davis said, quote, I think it's safe to say we waited long enough because some of the girls in the beginning, that would have been a little more of an issue for Queen Aja to read the girls. And Marsha said that for her personally, she wasn't trying to do actual voguing and claims no history in voguing and didn't want to disrespect anybody. And just to explain the backstory behind this, there has been a lot of contention about voguing, especially on Drag Race, and how it is often done wrong, and this could be seen as disrespectful. For those of you who don't know, voguing is a highly stylized modern house dance originating in the late 1980s that evolved out of the Harlem ballroom scene of the 1960s. And it gained mainstream exposure after the 1990 documentary Paris is Burning, and also the Madonna music video for the song Vogue, also in 1990. And the Harlem ballroom scene originated as an African American and Latino LGBT+ subculture from the 1960s through to the 1980s. And there has been a lot of discussion online as to whether it's insulting or a form of cultural appropriation for people to dance in the style of voguing without being part of that subculture or having studied voguing. And the reason Batty mentioned Aja is because Aja has been very vocal about this topic so far. For example, in episode 1 of season 15, Anitra's talent show went viral and the style of dance she was doing is very similar to voguing. And Aja was live tweeting during the episode, and after Anitra's performance, Aja tweeted saying, "Stop nogging on Drag Race." And nogging refers to when someone is imitating the style of voguing but doesn't have any actual knowledge of it and is doing it wrong. Anyway, after Aja tweeted that about Anitra, Aja received a lot of criticism from people saying that she was trying to, quote, gatekeep the art of voguing. And Aja later tweeted saying, "I just hate mocking Vogue." And Aja seemingly amended her stance on this slightly and later said, "I like her a lot, I just hate it when people not in ballroom get awarded for doing things ballroom related." And Aja said that she had re-watched Anitra's performance and said that she actually liked it and said that Anitra landed the dip correctly, but she said that the duck walking was, quote, a little sloppy. And Aja received a lot of criticism online about this, and some people even said that Aja has not been in the ballroom scene for very long herself, so she shouldn't be critiquing others. However, Aja denied this and said that she has been doing ballroom for a long time. But Aja later said that Anitra's performance was entertaining and she hopes that Anitra takes some voguing classes, and Aja's intention was never to spread hate or bullying towards anybody. And it appears that Anitra must have heard about what Aja had been saying about her performance, and then Anitra apparently blocked Aja. Aja then said in a since deleted tweet that Anitra unfollowing me on Instagram and removing me as a follower after I gave her her flowers but made a simple critique on behalf of many others in ballroom who feel the same way instead of just responding to the DM I sent and creating a dialogue is comical to me. And people responded to Aja saying that Anitra did the right thing by removing herself from Aja's, quote, pettiness and gatekeeping. And Aja later said that her community was being made a mockery of, which is why she was upset about it. And Aja also compared the situation to if someone was doing a Bollywood dance incorrectly and then avoided being asked about it. And this issue of voguing and gatekeeping has been a big topic recently. For example, I mentioned this in a previous video, but prominent ballroom dancer and performer Laomi once tweeted about Todrick Hall saying that he needed to stop nogging. And Laomi also said the same thing about Drag Race contestants too. And Laomi even said that Drag Race would never book her to be a judge, and she suggested it's because she's considered, quote, problematic for calling out appropriation. And this topic was also called out by other people, such as Gravity Balmain, who competed on season 1 of the show Legendary, which is a voguing reality competition. And when the preview for this week's Drag Race mini challenge came out, Gravity posted on Instagram saying, "Call me a hater all you want, but the voguing mini challenge in tomorrow's Drag Race episode is probably the most egregious and blatant example of the show's unrelenting efforts to bastardize and make a mockery of Vogue and ballroom, from terminology to technique to framing." And Gravity continued and said that it was very disheartening and claimed that Drag Race was spreading misinformation about voguing. But Gravity made it clear that these comments aren't targeted at the queens, but towards, quote, the powers that be. And Aja seemingly restarted this issue when she tweeted during the Lollapalooza lip sync, saying that during the Anitra vs Sasha lip sync, the dip was, quote, crusty, and it was assumed that Aja was referring to Anitra. But then, after this week's episode, it appeared that Aja complimented Anitra and said that she was the only one who landed a dip. But Aja did finish by saying that the challenge was, quote, in poor taste. But anyway, that was just a little backstory into the situation, and this is why Batty Davis mentioned Aja's name when they started talking about the voguing mini challenge this week. And Naisha brought up that there's been a lot of controversy going on at the moment that Drag Race did a voguing challenge, and Naisha asked what people's thoughts were on this and whether it was culturally appropriate. Naisha then asked Sasha about the episode from a few weeks ago where the contestants had to interview celebrities, and Sasha interviewed Charo and ended up winning the episode. And Naisha said that she had heard from others in the cast that even Sasha was surprised that she won that week, and Naisha asked Sasha if that was true. Sasha explained that all the contestants got to watch each other's interviews so they all knew how each other had performed. And Sasha said that Mistress Isabel Brooks, quote, gaslit me to think that I did bad. And Sasha explained that Mistress had asked Sasha who she thought was going to be in the bottom, and Sasha said that she thought Mistress and Malaysia were going to be in the bottom. However, apparently Mistress said that she thought that Sasha might be in the bottom because Charo was really hard. And that made Sasha doubt herself, and then she went to the runway day thinking that she might be in the bottom. And Sasha then joked and said, quote, thank you, Mistress. They then moved on to the part of the episode where RuPaul asked the queens who should go home tonight and why. And Naysha said that Luxx had gone down the line and said something positive about each person, but then read Lucy. And Luxx explained that she wanted to explain her reasoning for her choice, which is why she said something positive about everyone. And she said that she did say something positive about Lucy, but, quote, I don't know if amnesia will strike and will forget I said that. But Luxx said that although it didn't air, she did also read Selena slightly and said that Selena, quote, is not as polished, but she has a clear point of view. And Luxx said that she said what she said and she meant it. And Luxx also said that because she gave everyone compliments, she didn't want to then just go to Lucy and say, quote, and Lucy sucks. And Luxx said that Lucy is amazing at what she does and she's really good in Snatch Game and has done well in the competition, but her drag is a little, quote, generic. And Luxx finished by saying, quote, she's got charisma, nerve and talent, she's for me just kind of missing the uniqueness. Selena S. Titties called out Ross Matthews. So, in last week's episode, Selena S. Titties was eliminated from season 15, and you may remember that there was a tense moment on the runway when everyone was asked by RuPaul who should go home tonight and why, and several people said Selena's name. Well, Selena recently appeared at a viewing party, and she appeared to have some strong opinions about this, and she also spilled some unaired tea. Selena said that at first, when RuPaul asked that question, Anitra said, quote, I can't do this, and didn't want to give an answer, but RuPaul forced her to. And Anitra was apparently crying and then eventually said Selena's name. But this wasn't aired, and in the episode, they made it look like Anitra said Selena's name straight away, but according to Selena, this was not actually the case. And at the same viewing party, Selena called out Judge Ross Matthews on stage for some of the critiques Ross had made about her. In last week's episode, the runway category was Everybody Say Glove, and Ross's critique to Selena was, quote, there's so much going on the jumpsuit, I just realised you even had gloves on, but you know, maybe it would have been a more bold move to do some black with that and really service the gloves. And it appears that Selena was not very impressed at that critique. And on stage at the viewing party, Selena called Ross Matthews out and said, quote, Ross Matthews, you can eat my ass, bleep. What the F does he know about fashion? I should have been wearing a black bodysuit. Look at what the F you're wearing, you sequin sweater jacket ass little B. But it appears that Selena and Ross seem to have reconciled since then. In a Twitter post from the 22nd of March, Selena said that she had had a great conversation with Ross and they had hashed out their issues. And Selena said she apologised for her actions and admitted that she was in her feelings and misstepped. Ross then commented on Selena's post saying, love you always. And this is not the first time that Selena has called out the judges. In episode 11, which was the stand-up comedy challenge, the runway category was Rip Her to Shreds, and it appears that there was a bit of backstage tea about Selena's outfit. On the runway, Selena mentioned that this outfit was the story of a woman escaping for a better life, and Selena talked about her mother crossing the border into the US. But later on social media, Selena posted saying that this outfit was dedicated to her mother, who sadly passed away from cancer in 2020, and it was about how her mother came from Honduras to the US and crossed the border. But Selena implied as though she was told by production not to talk about certain aspects of her story. In the post, Selena said, quote, there's a lot of controversy and hush-hush over trigger words such as border control or immigration, which apparently was the reason I was urged, brackets warned, not to talk about this on the runway. But the fact is that it's the reality of a lot of Latin American people and families. However, Selena later changed the post on Instagram and removed the part where she said, quote, "I was urged (warned) not to talk about this on the runway," but the full original post is still on her Facebook page. And some people have speculated that Selena may have been told to remove that part by World of Wonder because it paints them in a slightly negative light. However, this has not been confirmed. And Selena also once criticised the judges in a response to a comment on Instagram. Someone commented on one of Selena's posts saying, quote, "The judges suck this season, we love you." And Selena responded saying, quote, "Literally the worst, not the guest judges, the puppets." Marsha versus Anitra meme. You may remember that in last week's comedy challenge, Marsha and Anitra were in the bottom and ended up lip-syncing against each other, with Marsha ultimately being eliminated. And the lip-sync was well received by the audience. Shortly after the episode aired, a Twitter user created a post which seemed to compare Marsha and Anitra and said that Marsha was things such as, quote, "pretty, trained dancer and young," whereas they said Anitra was, quote, "fugly, crusty moves and old and decaying." Another Twitter user then called them out and said that they were not a real fan of Marsha's if they were acting this way. And the user responded saying, quote, "I'm a real fan fighting for her when she's facing false slander, people saying Anitra won the lip sync, and I know she would appreciate it." But then Marsha herself responded and said, quote, "I don't appreciate this at all. My friendship with Anitra means much more to me than this TV show. If you wouldn't want someone saying this about you, you shouldn't say it about someone else. Delete this immediately." The post was not deleted, however, and is still on Twitter. But this post went viral and other people started copying it and turning it into a jokey meme. And this includes Canada's Drag Race Season 3 contestant Miss Fiercelicious, as well as YouTuber Tyler Oakley. And Season 14 contestant Cornbread also made a similar meme comparing herself and Season 4 contestant Madame LaQueer because they both had ankle injuries on Drag Race. And just as a side note, Cornbread implied recently that she and Madame LaQueer might have a beef, which is perhaps why Cornbread tweeted this meme. On the podcast Sloppy Seconds with Meatball and Big Dipper, Cornbread was asked if she would ever collab with Madame LaQueer because she was the original ankle injury queen. And Cornbread said, quote, "Girl, she don't like me, I don't like her either." And then Cornbread implied as though one time a Madame LaQueer thought that Cornbread had been stealing her tips and her, quote, "ratty wigs." But anyway, this post about Marsha versus Anitra has become a bit of a joke now within the Drag Race community on social media, and people are still posting things about it. Twitter hack. Social media is a very important tool for the Drag Race contestants, and Twitter is often the platform where the queens voice their real opinions about things, and many of the queens have built up a large audience. But several queens have also had their Twitter accounts hacked, presumably so that the hackers can leverage the queen's large audience. Several weeks ago, Selena Estitti's Twitter account posted saying that she had 10 MacBooks for sale and that she had personally signed them, and there were several tweets about it. And people weren't sure at the beginning if Selena's Twitter had been hacked or not, but Selena later confirmed that she was indeed hacked and those posts were then deleted. And after that, people started making jokes about it and saying that they had received their MacBooks from Selena. And it appears that Season 13 contestant Gottmik also recently had her Twitter account hacked in the same way. And people weren't sure if Gottmik was just making a joke about it, but Gottmik posted on an Instagram story confirming that her Twitter had indeed been hacked. And the next day, Gottmik tweeted saying that she had got her Twitter account back and joked that she was not selling any discount electronics. So it appears as though this Twitter hack has now affected 2 different Drag Race queens, and we'll have to see if any other queens also get hacked. Mistress denies comments made by Willem and Alaska. As you may remember, in episode 10 of season 15, the challenge was that the queens had to interview different celebrities, and the runway theme was A Night of 1,000 Beyoncés, and Mistress Isabel Brooks wore an outfit representing Destiny's Child. I did talk about this in my Roscoe's recap, which I'll link to in the description, but that week, Malaysia and Selena were in the bottom and Malaysia went home. But many people thought that Mistress would have been in the bottom. Malaysia was then a guest at Roscoe's that week, and she implied as though in Untucked, Mistress had a quote fit, which was unaired, and apparently Mistress said that because she was in a gown, she wouldn't be able to move much in the lip sync and told Malaysia that she would have to dance around her. And Malaysia implied as though the producers caught wind of this conversation and wanted to protect Mistress, so they didn't put her in the bottom. Anyway, after that episode, Willem and Alaska talked about this on their podcast Race Chaser, and Willem said that she had heard that Mistress threw a giant tantrum. Alaska then said that from the intel they had received, Selena should not have been in the bottom and Malaysia and Mistress should have been in the bottom and lip-synced, but the producers wanted to save Mistress. And Mistress has since come out and denied these claims. In a Twitter post, Mistress said that it wasn't true and that people were believing rumours from people who weren't in the room, which people took to be a reference to Willem and Alaska. Mistress also said that the contestants do not call the shots and denied that the show would have saved her because the lip sync would have made good TV. And Mistress made the point that Malaysia had said herself during the Roscoe's viewing party that she felt that it was her time to go and she knew that she was going to be eliminated that week. Mistress also said that people can stop tagging Willem in her tweets. And this may be because Willem responded to Mistress's original tweet explaining that Willem had heard this from multiple girls, which Mistress replied to by saying, quote, "You have a blessed day." But it appears as though Willem reached out to Mistress by phone and they talked about this, because Mistress later tweeted saying, "I love a bee who will pick up that phone and be direct. You are a key, Willem. Can't wait till we cut up in real life." Aja versus Anitra drama continued. I did talk about this topic in one of my Roscoe's recap videos, which I'll link to in the description, so make sure you check this out for the full story. But just in case you don't know, a while back, Season 9 and All Stars 3 contestant Aja previously criticised Anitra's voguing on Drag Race and called Anitra's moves, quote, crusty, and implied that Anitra was doing it wrong. And after that, people accused Aja of trying to gatekeep voguing, and this has become a widely talked about issue in the Drag Race community. And Anitra then apparently unfollowed Aja on social media. However, what you may not know is that this drama has continued since then. Back when Aja originally criticised Anitra, Aja questioned whether Anitra had a background in ballroom/Vogue, and Aja even said that she had reached out to Anitra to ask. And recently, a Twitter user said that Aja should have reached out to Anitra, and Aja shared a screenshot of the message she sent Anitra back in January asking, "Hey baby, congrats on your win last night, do you have a ballroom history?" Then, in the comments to that post, Twitter users said that Aja had appropriated Japanese culture during her All Stars 3 talent show, and said that Aja shouldn't accuse people of appropriating ballroom culture. And Aja replied to this talking about appropriation and saying that the conversation had moved on to about how crunchy the fans act. And this led to a lot more critical comments of Aja in the replies, and Aja responded to some of them. However, in the end, Aja tweeted saying that she was going to, quote, shut up and let people, quote, live in ignorance, and said that she had spoken her opinion. Aja also made the point that Drag Race fans have tantrums about people's opinions. And Aja then replied to a Twitter user who implied that Aja was jealous of Anitra because Aja didn't get as far in the competition as Anitra has. Aja then replied to this and said that she, quote, literally doesn't give an F about Drag Race, and said that she's in the best place I've ever been in my life. And Aja then clarified what she meant about Drag Race and said, "Just to be clear, when I say that I don't care, I'm talking in reference to the placement that I had on the show because it doesn't matter to me, especially since I was able to make so much with it after the show. I do appreciate the show a lot." But Aja doesn't seem to have tweeted any more about the situation since then. So you may remember that a few episodes ago, in episode 9 of season 15, the queens were tasked with creating crystallized eleganza looks for the Crystal Ball. And during that episode, when the bottom two, Selena Estites and Spice, were doing the lip sync for your life, Sasha Colby had her leg up on stage at the back during the lip sync, and many people tweeted about it at the time. Well, it appears that there may have been a reason why Sasha was standing like this. In a recent episode for Entertainment Weekly's Quick Drag podcast, host Joey Nolfi asked Sasha about this moment, and Sasha admitted that she was standing like this because she was actually peeing on stage. Joey said that he had tweeted a photo of Sasha with her leg up on stage a while ago, and Malaysia Baby Doll Fox and Luxe Noir London had responded to that tweet and said that there was a reason Sasha was standing like that, but they didn't say any more than that. And apparently Joey tried to ask Luxe about it in a previous podcast episode, but Luxe wouldn't answer out of respect for Sasha. And so Joey asked Sasha directly about it, and this is what Sasha said about it.
Because I could not hold my pee in. And I was like, I'm going to have to pee. And so we were waiting, and like there was a moment, and it was just tape under that skirt. Yeah. So like literally holding it like for dear life.
And Sasha then talked about what Luxe had said to her in the workroom in the next episode when Luxe said, quote, "You literally peed all over that stage."
They actually said it the next episode. And when we were sitting down, and then Luxe goes, because I win, right? And then she goes, "Girl, you peed on that stage tonight."
That was real?
And that's why I said, well, why don't you soak some of this up so you can get another win?
And Sasha also said that there was a wet patch left on the stage.
There was, and I think Luxe was behind me, and like when we're doing our walk off, she was like, "There's like a little wet spot." I was like, I know, I'm very well aware.
Later in the podcast interview, Sasha also said that she is now in the Hall of Fame of queens who have peed on stage. Nasia then said that they were filming the reunion on the same day that Roscoe's viewing party was happening, which was on the Friday, and that the finale was being filmed the next day on Saturday. And then, on the Saturday after the finale was taped, a rumour started circulating online that apparently one of the backup dancers had broken their leg on stage during Anitra's number at the finale. And some people were even saying that Anitra had apparently kicked the dancer accidentally during the number, and that's why they had broken their leg. However, Nasia Lopez tweeted on Sunday and said that this rumour was not true. Nasia said, "One of the dancers hurt himself. A dancer did not break his leg at the RuPaul's Drag Race finale. He was in all the girls' numbers and they had to modify everyone's final number, not just Anitra's. Kudos to the dancers for being so professional. Also, the internet is wild, shaking my head." And a user replied to Nasia's tweet and asked if it was a lie that Anitra kicked the dancer, and Nasia said that it was a lie. So they started off by talking about the season in general, and Carson mentioned that you may have noticed that he was quite absent from the season, and he was only there for a few episodes at the beginning and then disappeared. Carson explained that they regularly get tested for COVID, and one day he was in his trailer and people came to his trailer wearing, quote, hazmat suits and told him that he had tested positive for COVID. And Carson joked that they took him and his luggage to his rented Kia Eclipse car and he wasn't allowed to come back on set for 10 days. Carson said that the final episode was 11 days after that, so he thought that he'd be able to at least come back for the final episode. However, they had to change the filming schedule and it was moved to the 10th day instead, so Carson was not allowed to come back for any of the rest of the episodes. Nasia then said she feels like this whole reunion episode was essentially Mistress Isabel Brooks' reunion episode because Mistress was the main subject and discussion and was involved in so much of the episode. And part of this might be because recently on Twitter, Mistress got involved in a jokey feud with Season 8 winner Bob the Drag Queen. It all started when Mistress tweeted saying, "I'm done beating around the bush, she has stepped out of line with me too many times. At that one queen," which is Bob's Twitter handle, "when I see you, it's on site, period." Bob quote tweeted this and said that if this retweet got 15,000 likes, she would drop a diss track about Mistress. Bob then released a video a few days later called "Mistress is About to Get Dragged" featuring Selena S. Titties. And the song was set to the melody of the RuPaul song Red You Wrote You, and in the track, Bob made some jokey digs about Mistress such as, quote, "How you got two faces but you got three chins." I can't play the songs here for copyright reasons, but I'll link to them in the description. And on the same day, Mistress also released a video called Ode to Monet's Understudy, which was set to the melody of RuPaul's song I'm That Bee. And in the video, Mistress made jokes about Bob, such as, quote, "How you reading a bee rocking custom couture? If it was rags to riches, then Bob was the before." And both of these songs were really funny, and it was clearly just a joke between the queens and wasn't meant too seriously, and it's assumed that this was all pre-arranged because the songs were both released on the same day. And Naysha talked about the fact that one of the dancers injured themselves during Anisha's performance, which was right at the beginning. And Naysha said that they had to wait for about 45 minutes to an hour for them to rearrange the performance to make up for the missing dancer, and they went from 6 dancers to 5. Naysha said that everyone was really excited when the performances got started again, but Naysha added, quote, "The problem was that when it went to Lux, we had to wait that amount of time again because they now had to redo the choreography for Lux." And Naysha added that the dancer who injured themselves seems to have had a major part in each of the performances of the top 4, which is why it took such a long time for them to rearrange the choreography for the rest of the performances. And on the topic of the drama between the queens, this was also referred to in the last episode during the reunion, where some of the queens confronted each other about things that had happened throughout the season. And one of the comments that was brought up at the reunion was that they did a mini reading challenge, and Irene Dubois said that Selena S. Titties had a fake accent. And then Selena said, quote, "Okay, white girl." What you may not know though is that afterwards on Twitter, a Twitter user tweeted saying, "Irene, I've had enough, shut up, hashtag drag race, you want TV time so bad." And Irene responded saying, "I'm sorry, they asked me to add more comments during the breaks." And the user replied saying, "But commenting to a POC queen about an accent that's not a good look, and it made very uncomfortable." To which Irene said, "I don't disagree." And then Malaysia replied to this tweet and clarified that her and Selena discussed it off camera and all is well, enjoy the reunion my love. And it seems that some of the other queens also made some critical comments about the reunion. For example, Amethyst, who was eliminated in episode 5, tweeted after the reunion saying that the reunion was really disappointing and that during the reunion the only thing that they found time to show about Amethyst was her hookup with Robin Fierce that happened a couple of years ago and, quote, "no one cares about." Amethyst also said that they only used about 20% of what she said and they didn't show anything about her music or her journey in drag. And Amethyst said that she wasn't just sitting there not saying anything, they just didn't address her during the reunion. A Twitter user then replied to Amethyst and said that Amethyst could have found opportunities to talk and said that Irene managed to find moments for herself. And Amethyst replied saying that she and Robin did say some nice things about the Connecticut drag scene, but it just wasn't shown. Another Twitter user also replied to Amethyst's original tweet and said that Amethyst was making herself a, quote, martyr, and said that it's the worst way to get asked back on the show or build a stronger fan base. And Amethyst just responded saying, "I just said that I was disappointed, ... But it looks like Amethyst deleted her original tweet and hasn't said anything more about it since then. They then talked about Jinx Monsoon's performance, where she performed a song from the musical Chicago because Jinx is currently performing Chicago on Broadway. And Naysha spilled some backstage tea and said that apparently Jinx did the performance 3 times because the first time she did it, it was amazing. But the second time, when Jinx started to sing, apparently she went wrong and told them to stop the music and said, quote, "that wasn't it." And then she did it for a 3rd time and did it perfectly. Detox reveals production mistake at season 15 finale. Detox competed on season 5 of Drag Race US and also All Stars 2 and has become a very popular queen within the Drag Race fandom. Detox was recently a guest at a viewing party at Play Dance Bar in Nashville, where she shared some behind the scenes tea about a production mistake that apparently happened at the season 15 finale. Although Detox was not at the finale, she said she heard that during the taping of the finale, when the top 4 were on stage waiting to find out who had made it to the top 2, there were screens behind them which were switched off at the time. However, according to Detox, there was some type of production mistake, and apparently 2 of the screens behind the queens lit up prematurely, and they showed just Sasha's and Anitra's photos. And apparently the queens were facing the audience so they didn't see the screens at first, but then because the audience was gasping, the queens then turned around and saw the screens showing just Sasha and Anitra. And Detox joked and said, quote, "So someone got fired that night on production." And if this is true, it would mean that Mistress and Lux probably knew that they hadn't made it to the top 2 before RuPaul had actually announced it. And so when RuPaul did eventually announce the top 2, perhaps Mistress and Lux already knew that they hadn't made it to the top 2, and this may have affected their reactions that we saw in the episode. However, this is just a rumour and has not been confirmed by anyone else, and some people have denied that this is true, but I thought that this was an interesting piece of backstage tea about a potential production mistake during the filming of season 15 finale. Lucy said for her, she just felt like she should have won the stuff that she wanted to, and everyone just laughed. Lucy then explained that what's hard in that situation is that everyone in the room thinks that you are going to win because you did so well in the challenge, but then when they announce that another queen has won, they zoom in on your face. And then Lucy implied that production are a bit shady, and they asked the other queens to then ask the other queen who lost how she felt about not winning. It then kind of looked like Q wanted to say something but didn't want to, likely because she wasn't allowed to because of the NDA. And Lucy put her arm on Q and said, quote, "You don't have to, girl, you're good. You were just on the show." And everyone laughed. Lucy then explained that in those kinds of situations when the queens ask you how you're feeling after you didn't win, what you're not allowed to say is something like, quote, "I know what production is effing doing and it's peeing me off, and I know they want me angry and I am angry, and I can't say on camera I know what they're doing, so I have to say I'm getting in my own head." And so Lucy was kind of calling out production and saying that you're not allowed to mention anything to do with production on the show, even if it's true. There was then another question, and they mentioned that a month or so ago, Mistress Isabel Brooks had Plain Jane as a guest on her YouTube channel, and in the video, Mistress tried to call Lucy, but Lucy didn't pick up. And the question was, if Lucy tried to call Mistress now, would Mistress pick up? Lucy said Mistress probably would pick up because, quote, "she's obsessed with me for some reason." And people in the audience gasped and clapped. And Lucy continued and said, quote, "She is, I don't know what the F it is." And Lucy explained that the reason she did not answer Mistress when she called her is because the last time Mistress called Lucy, Mistress was actually on TikTok live, but she hadn't told Lucy that and Lucy was unaware. And Lucy said she thought that that was, quote, "really shady of Mistress to do that." Lucy then said that one thing she would do differently is that she would never answer the question, "How do you think you did in the challenge?" because no matter what you say, they, quote, "can and will use it however they want to in the edit." And if you say you did really well, they'll cut out your whole part. And if you say that you think you did badly, they'll probably put you in the bottom anyway. Lucy also said that if she did go back, she would think about Drag Race more as a reality show than a competition, because Lucy was not in that mindset when she went on season 15. And Lucy said she does have to, quote, "give credit to the girls who had that kind of mindset." Lucy also said that Mistress and Lux Noir London are so good at reality TV and knowing what the producers are going to do with every situation, whereas Lucy said she never thought about that and she always just said how she really felt, and so if she went back to the show, she would do it differently. Okay, so we're now going to move on to some recent drama that involved Sugar and Spice getting called out for a recent ad campaign they did for Starbucks. You may remember that a few weeks ago, something similar happened when Olivia Lux and Jan got criticised by people online because they had done an ad campaign with Starbucks. And the reason is because Starbucks has been criticised by people saying that they are pro-Israel and anti-Palestine. I'll put a link in the description to that video because I went a bit more in depth about the accusations against Starbucks and why people are calling for a boycott. However, the recent drama involving Sugar and Spice is similar to that situation because they recently did an ad campaign for Starbucks and they've received backlash about it. So it started on the 17th of April when Sugar and Spice posted an Instagram reel where they said that they were partnering with Starbucks to promote their new spicy lemonade refreshers. Soon after the video was posted, people on social media started criticising Sugar and Spice for partnering with Starbucks, as the brand has been accused of supporting Israel. And also in the past, Starbucks has been accused of several other things, such as being anti-union and also accusations of not paying sufficient tax. However, people on social media pointed out that Sugar and Spice's video had hundreds of comments, and at the current time it has over 700. However, when you look at the comments, they only seem to be positive comments about the video. So people have said that Sugar and Spice must be deleting any negative or critical comments. And if we look at Spice's most recent post, which came out after the Starbucks video, we can see that there are a lot of negative comments criticising their partnership with Starbucks. And the reaction on social media, as you can imagine, has been somewhat mixed. Some people defended Sugar and Spice and said that they perhaps didn't know about the accusations against Starbucks, but other people then pointed out that Sugar and Spice have been deleting negative comments from the video, so they must be aware of it. Some people also pointed out that Starbucks has stated publicly that they have not donated any funds to Israel, and that Starbucks is not on the BDS's official boycott list. And for those of you who don't know, BDS, which stands for Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions, is a non-violent Palestinian-led movement promoting boycotts, divestments and economic sanctions against Israel. And BDS has a list of companies to boycott, although Starbucks is not currently on the list. However, back to Sugar and Spice, and although some people were defending them, the majority of the reactions have been negative towards them, with people criticising them for their partnership with Starbucks. And this includes several drag race queens who also criticise Sugar and Spice. For example, a Twitter user tweeted a clip of Sugar and Spice's video with question marks as the comments. And Candy Muse replied to the tweet saying, "Girl, F them." A Twitter account named Drag Crave also posted about the Sugar and Spice video, and that post received a lot of attention. And Hershey LaCourgette reposted Drag Crave's post and included a photo of her, which was from the lip sync this week when she stood in front of Mirage. And as I said earlier, this moment has since become a meme. However, in this instance, Hershey posted the photo of her standing in front of Sugar and Spice. And Hershey later posted separately saying, "I think what makes it worse is this commercial is ass. It looks like a bad Proactive commercial from the 2000s. One of the other Drag Race queens who also criticised Sugar and Spice was Dawn. Dawn retweeted Drag Crave's tweet and said, "Can't act for bleep either." Someone in the comments then said, "Oh, the girls are fighting," and Dawn replied saying, "I'm not necessarily fighting anyone, but why the F would you do this in the middle of the boycott? It's such obvious corporate sellout, especially for people who are heralded as internet stars. There is no way they didn't know the ramifications, like they deserve to get clowned right now." Dawn also said, "People make mistakes and it's okay to hold them accountable for those mistakes. I, however, am also clowning them because I want to." Then Dawn did a set of follow-up tweets, and one of them said, "Sorry, especially considering there is data pointing to Starbucks sales decreasing because of the boycotts, now is not the time, sorry, but that bleep peed me off. Also, I did not fact check this, but it pees me off either way." But then people in the replies criticised Dawn and accused her of sharing misinformation about the Starbucks situation and not doing research about it first. However, the next day, Dawn seemingly responded to this criticism and retweeted a thread by another Twitter user who was sharing information about the Starbucks situation and fact-checking claims that people had made online. Dawn retweeted this thread and said, "Sharing this because I accidentally contributed to discourse that I wasn't fully educated on and that's my fault. F Starbucks for many reasons, and regardless of anything, it's always #FreePalestine." And there may have been other queens who called Sugar and Spice out too, but these are the only ones that I could see at the moment. However, there have also been many other people in the comments also calling out Sugar and Spice. And as I said earlier, if you go onto their most recent posts on both Instagram and Twitter, you can see that there are multiple comments calling them out. But so far, Sugar and Spice do not seem to have responded to the situation in any way that I could see. So we'll have to wait and see if there are any further developments that come out about this situation. And if you'd like to get early access to my videos as well as have your comments featured in my Have Your Say videos, please check out my Patreon and consider supporting me. It goes such a long way to helping support my channel and I really, really appreciate it. And I'll put a link to my Patreon in the description. I'd also like to say a massive thank you to all of my Patreon members who are amazing and support me every month. Thank you so much for being part of my Patreon. I really, really appreciate it, and I really do love my Patreon community. You are all legends. If you liked this video, please remember to like and comment on the video to help tell the algorithm that this is a great video, and make sure you hit the subscribe button because it really does make such a big difference to my channel. Thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join me again in future videos. Thank you, bye!